All right. Oh, I think we need to get a microphone, though, don't we? Otherwise, they can't hear you talk. Give me a moment. All right. Can I ask, Otto, since you're up already, would you be willing to pass this out to everybody? Thank you. I appreciate that. Almost 12 years here at Berea, you're finally starting to get handouts. I rarely do that with Bible studies, but this handout is really simple in that the next few weeks, as we were last week, we're talking about the construction of the tabernacle, and so I wanted to just give you a really nice image of what the tabernacle is, and details about it, so that when we are discussing it, you can kind of put two and two together in the construction of it. And so this comes out of the Lutheran service, or a Lutheran study Bible, and it's really a nice depiction of the tabernacle and kind of the intricacy of it. And something that I got thinking about as I was reading again the construction of this is, imagine this having to be assembled and disassembled and then transported. They didn't have semi-trucks to transport stuff. They didn't have the kind of trailers like we have today. And so what would they have had to have rigged up to be able to transport what this is? This is a lot more than just building a tent. Because of its size, it uses a lot of wood. It uses silver and gold. And not even counting all the furnishings that are inside of it, just the structure itself. To assemble it, disassemble it, and transport it. And so as God gives them the directions, the instructions of how to build it, you know that he had all of that in mind when he gave them the details of how to do it, was to make it as efficiently constructible and deconstructed as possible. So kind of just think about those things a little bit as we read of the details of the tabernacle. That's going to be very interesting for us moving forward. So we are in Exodus. I think we are like in the middle of the 26th chapter. Is that what it was? I believe. We got started on the tabernacle itself. Verse 15 is where we start, where we are. Okay. So if somebody wants to read 15 through 25, we'll start there. Anyone? 15 to 25. Otto, will you? Yeah. There you go. Otto, you're Steve today, okay? And if you're a better Steve than Steve, I'm going to enjoy telling him that.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
You shall make upright frames for the tabernacle of acacia wood. 10 cubits shall be the length of a frame, and 1.5 cubits the breadth of each frame. There shall be 2 tenons in each frame for fitting together. So shall you do for all the frames of the tabernacle. You shall make the frames for the tabernacle, 20 frames for the south side, and 40 bases of silver you shall make under the 20 frames, 2 bases under one frame for its 2 tenons, and 2 bases under the next frame for its 2 tenons. And for the second side of the tabernacle, on the north side 20 frames, and their 40 bases of silver, 2 bases under one frame, and 2 bases under the next frame. And for the rear of the tabernacle westward, you shall make 6 frames, and you shall make 2 frames for corners of the tabernacle in the rear. They shall be separate beneath, but joined at the top at the first ring. Thus shall it be with both of them. They shall form the 2 corners. And there shall be 8 frames with their bases of silver, 16 bases, 2 bases under one frame and 2 bases under another frame.
Okay. All right. We don't have to get into any details regarding all of the, all the quantity, the amounts of them, things like that. Do the numbers have biblical meanings? Any of that? No. This is just good construction, so it won't blow down in the wind. But look at how they have it put together. They're using a tenon joinery, which is a very common woodworking joinery that will allow you to have good construction with the unit. That cabinet over there, that would use tenon joinery. And basically a tenon joinery would be where the legs are, and then you see the brace that goes across underneath the top. That brace will have an extra piece that you don't see because it's actually inside of the leg. So what you'll do is you'll carve out, you'll carve out a rectangle or whatever, however they created their tenon, a rectangle in there, and then that actual side bracing will fit right inside of that leg to hold it together. So this tabernacle has these tenons that are used at the tops and bottoms to be able to hold it together. And you'll note that they said on the bottom where the tenon is, they also have that reinforced or with silver. Now, and again, the main thing is that it's metal. They're using metal and silver was probably relatively. There's 3 types of metals that they used often because they would have used pure metals rather than some of the steels that we manufacture today. They would have used gold, and they would have used silver, and they would have used bronze. And so this would be of silver, and the reason that it would be metal was not just silver, not just decorative. See, we would think of it when, you're using silver or gold, it's all about decoration. But for them, it's about, it wasn't really about just decoration. Where those tenons would come together, that would form there would form a gap in there or a seat where they are. Now inside it doesn't matter here, but if you're outside in the elements, in the weather, the silver metal that goes around it is going to waterproof it. It's going to help to keep that tenon from getting rotted on the inside. And so that was another part of why they did it. But when you take a look at how many there would have to be, and the height of this tabernacle was such that you can figure it about 10 to 12 feet high. So you're talking, a pretty massive size structure. And you think of wood, if you have wood that are 12 footers, 10 footers, 12 footers, whatever they are, and they're like posts, if they're using posts, whether it be 4x4 or 6x6 here they are they're pretty large. That's going to be a lot of weight. So you're going to have what, 40 of them on each side. You'll see the picture here shows which direction the tabernacle is facing, and so the north side would be that back long wall, and then you would have and there would be a duplicate wall on the south side of it, and then of course the end walls being smaller. But that's a lot of wood alone for them to have to transport, put up, take down, transport. The other thing that by using the tenon joinery will allow them to put it together so that it sits relatively square. You know, it's not like when if you're trying to put a post up, you know, and you're gonna maybe use strapping or whatever to hold it. You know, it could be really wonky. This way, with the tenon joinery, it is going to, you know, and you're using tenon joinery going multiple directions, you're going to have a pretty square piece, very solid, like a piece of furniture, but of course, massive in height. So that's the main structure of the uprights of the tabernacle. So some.
Picture here, this is the foundation here, and this is with the post.
Well, we'll actually talk about that later. What you see in the back picture is actually the entire area. The inside of there, you see that thing that's covered on the inside on the back picture. That's the tabernacle. So we're going to be talking about that whole thing later. So the tabernacle, and then the bronze altar, and the gathering space. The tabernacle, you'll notice that the people didn't go in the tabernacle. The only ones that were allowed in the tabernacle would have been priests and high priests.
So this big thing down here
Is that little thing in there? Yes. The big thing in the front is the little thing in the back. Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay. So does somebody want to read now from 26 to, let's go up to 35. Or no, might as well go to the end of the chapter. Give you a long one to read.
Also make crossbars of acacia wood, 5 for the frames on one side of the tabernacle, 5 for those on the other side, and 5 for the frames on the west, at the far end of the tabernacle. The center crossbar is to extend from end to end at the middle of the frames. Overlay the frames with gold, and make gold rings to hold the crossbars. Also, overlay the crossbars with gold. Set up the tabernacle according to the plan shown you on the mountain. Make a curtain of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and finely twisted linen, with cherubim worked into it by a skilled craftsman. Hang it with gold hooks on 4 posts of acacia wood, overlaid with gold and standing on 4 silver bases. Hang the curtain from the clasps and place the ark of the testimony behind the curtain. The curtain will separate the holy place from the most holy place. Put the atonement cover on the ark of the testimony in the most holy place. Place the tabernacle outside the curtain on the north side of the tabernacle, and put the lampstand opposite it on the south side. For the entrance to the tent, make a curtain of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, finely twisted linen, the work of an embroider. Make gold hooks for this curtain, and 5 posts of acacia wood overlaid with gold, and cast 5 bronze bases for them.
Okay. So now we originally talked about the outside 4 walls. Now they're going to put this center wall through there. And look at look at the massive structure that this center wall is. The center wall, it will have the same size upright pillars as the two end walls. You kind of see that in the picture, right? They're massive, probably a foot or more in maybe 18 inches wide. So they're big, heavy pieces. And then you're going to see that to those structures, you have the 5 and the 5 on the two ends. Then you have 4 of them in the center. And to that 4, we're going to see then wrapped in gold. They're going to have their gold clasps and rings. And then there's going to be this purple and blue curtain that is going to be in there. And the curtain they want embroidered by their craftspeople with cherubim. Remember we talked about the cherubim a little bit last week, where they had the gold cherubim on top the mercy seat that was going to sit on the Ark of the Covenant, and so here they're going to have the decorative cherubim on this blue and purple linen. And this is going to be the space that is going to protect the people from being killed by God. Remember, because of our sinfulness, we cannot stand face to face with God, or we would be consumed. His righteousness is so pure, so perfect, that his righteousness alone would consume us. That's what Scripture tells us. And so God never looks upon the people. Even Moses, when Moses would see God, Moses would have to have his back to God or have his face covered so that he could not see God. And that's why God would veil himself in a burning bush or in a cloud or in a pillar of fire or whatever the case may be, because you couldn't look upon him. Well, if God is going to be present in between the two cherubim, the people can't see him face to face, or they would die. So God protects them. And he protects them by making a separate room for him to be in that would be a place they can't go inside of, because it would kill them. And so that place would be called the most holy place. Or when the temple was finally built, later on it was called the Holy of Holies. And it would have been that curtain that separated the Holy of Holies from the holy place. That was the curtain at the crucifixion that was torn in two. Okay? So, but here, already in the tabernacle, there is a Holy of Holies, or the most holy place. So, inside the tabernacle, we have the holy place, and then behind the curtain, we have the most holy place. And it's separated by a curtain that they were not allowed to pass through, with the exception of one time per year. And that will be described somewhere down the road. Okay, so that is what we are seeing here. And then he's telling, this is how I want my house laid out. So remember, they were to build the Ark of Covenant. They were to put the holy writings in the Ark of the Covenant. They were to build the mercy seat with the cherubim, and then they were to build they were to build the table with for the showbread. We talked about that. We're going to get to the table of incense in a little bit. And then you remember the lampstand that lights the whole place? And God says, this is where I want all those pieces to be. And so that is what we see here. And note that the head of the tabernacle was always facing to the west. Okay? Where is the head of our church? Where the altar is of the church? On the west. Yeah. Yeah. It's on the west side. This is south.
The altar was over by the screen.
The altar would have been here by the screen, yes. But they should be built toward the west. Yeah.
But ours upstairs is
So we're westerly facing. Mhm. Yeah. So, and it was for this reason. It doesn't mean that, now, is a church not a church if it's not facing the west? Bad sentence structure, but no. So we're gonna have triple negatives in that one. But no, it doesn't, but we do it really, it's a symbolic thing. Yeah, absolutely. So, here, this is what we are seeing here. It was faced to the west. But note that God is very specific about where he wants the items. Why? Because it's his house. He can decorate his house. He can set up his house the way he wants it. And so it is not done it's not like, well, Bill, they said, put them where you think they would be best. No, God doesn't tell us that. He says, this is where I want them to be. And for him, there was purpose to all of that. So, okay. So that gets us up to this. And then there's a screen for the entrance to the tent so that the tent, you couldn't be on the outside of the tent. You could look at it and see what's all going on in there. It was protected. It was, again, because it is a holy place. It is the house of God, and while God invites people to be present with him, we still are reminded that this is holy ground. And so we see that it is closed off. Same thing you'll see here. We have a narthex area, a gathering space, but that gathering space is closed off, by the doors and the windows and the folding windows and all of that. So it is in the holy place. So that's what we see. The difference between the church, the holy place today, the tabernacle, which is what this is, the difference between the tabernacle today and this tabernacle would be what? One simple difference. The curtain. Yeah. The curtain that separates you from the Holy of Holies. That curtain is gone. And that was gone when Christ said, it is finished. There's no longer need. We now can stand in the presence of God in Christ. And so there we no longer have that curtain. Other than that, it's really still the same thing, as we take a look at it. Okay, so
where the focus of worship is, was there a curtain between that and the most holy place or the holy place?
well, you see the curtain is on the entrance to the tabernacle. That's where the curtain was. That's the curtain that's talked about in verses 36 and 37.
Was there another curtain inside and facing east? Where it says bronze altar?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, there's no curtain there.
And then the people that are worshiping can look straight through
Right.
to the holy place,
Mm-hmm.
but they can't go over there.
Right.
What's to stop them from going?
Death. God, death. That they are we'll read about that as time goes on here, Emily. There'll be more instructions as to where people can go and who can go where. In fact, when the temple was built, there were like multiple stages or multiple levels. So there would have been one area where they would worship, where only the Jewish men could go. And then the next one would be the women and children, and the next one would be the Gentiles, the sojourners and the Gentiles, that type of thing. And so, they even split it up more on the Temple Mount than they did here. But we'll read more on that as we get to the actual court of the tabernacle. So, the next piece that we have, though, is the beginning of chapter 27, which would be the bronze altar. So, does somebody want to read chapter 27, the first 8 verses?
You shall make the altar of acacia wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits broad. The altar shall be square, and its height shall be 3 cubits. And you shall make horns for it on its 4 corners, and its horns shall be of one piece with it. And you shall overlay it with bronze. You shall make pots for it to receive its ashes, and shovels and basins, and forks and fire pans. You shall make all its utensils of bronze. You shall also make for it a grating, a network of bronze, and on the net you shall make 4 bronze rings at its 4 corners. And you shall set it under the ledge of the altar so that the net extends halfway down the altar. And you shall make poles for the altar, poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with bronze. And the poles shall be put through the rings so that the poles are on the 2 sides of the altar when it is carried. You shall make it hollow with its boards, and it shall be shown to you as it has been shown to you on the mountains, so shall it be made.
Okay. So as it has been shown to you on the mountain, that tells us that God actually wrote a set of architectural plans for this. I mean, that's really something, as you take a look at that. He put together architectural plans, and they had to follow it. Now, interesting, look at this, the bronze altar as we have with the Ark of the Covenant and all those things. They have the rings and poles on it, which means when they transport it, you're not allowed to transport those holy things by way of like a trailer or a wagon or an animal or whatever the case may be. Those things were supposed to be carried by men. Think about the amount of weight that would be there, that you'd have to have 4 men carrying this altar wherever they went. And so that's why the poles would be, through there, nice and sturdy, so that they would carry it. Did they hold it? Did they rest it on their shoulder? Did they make some kind of a leather thing for it? We don't know any of that stuff, but it is meant to be carried. Same thing as the Ark of the Covenant. It is meant to be carried. So it's not transported by any other way, and that's how it was constructed. So that is the bronze altar. So remember, Emily, last week you asked the question, were they spilling the blood all the time on the Ark of the Covenant? No. This is what they were spilling the blood on, as they were spilling it on the bronze altar. Okay? Now, the Ark of the Covenant did get blood spilled upon it, but that would only be during the Day of Atonement, when you could go back into, because remember, they couldn't spill the blood on it because you couldn't get back to it. If they would get back to it, they would die. you know. And so where the blood would be spilled was on this altar, the bronze altar. And so, of course, we see how the altar was made, and the altar, it's all bronze, with a bronze encasing the wood. It has the grate. You think about your grill tops. You know, you have your grill tops in there. Today they're stainless steel or cast iron or whatever. This was supposed to be bronze, and so you'd have to make the grill top so that you could put the sacrifice. You could have the sacrifice on top of it. The animal would be consumed then on top of that.
And then they keep that fire going all the time so they can continuously have those offerings?
Well, those fires would be, that fire would only be going during the time of offering, whenever those offerings were. So the fires that would stay going, we're going to read about that later. That would be really in the lampstand. Yeah. That fire was all the time. Okay? If you remember that, if you can recall that, that would have been the job of the high priest or the one who would assist the high priest. Solomon was one of those, right? You remember Samuel was one of those. Remember, Samuel was the one that had to make sure that in the temple, he was the one that had to make sure that the lamp stayed trimmed, you know, and so, it was during then that God would call him Samuel, Samuel, you know, that type. We remember that from the story, but that's because Samuel's job was to keep the lamps lit. They were to never go out. And that was the lamp they were talking about was this lampstand. So that was to stay lit. And we'll read about that later. Okay. So that is the bronze altar. Now we go to the courtyard of the tabernacle, and so of the tabernacle proper. So if somebody wants to read from 9 through larger space, 9 to 19.
Make a courtyard for the tabernacle. The south side shall be 100 cubits long, and is to have curtains of finely twisted linen, with 20 posts and 20 bronze bases, and with silver hooks and bands on the posts. The north side shall also be 100 cubits long, and is to have curtains with 20 posts and 20 bronze bases, and with silver hooks and bands on the posts. The west side of the courtyard shall be 50 cubits wide, and have curtains with 10 posts and 10 bases. On the east end, toward the sunrise, the courtyard shall also be 50 cubits wide. Curtains 15 cubits long are to be on one side of the entrance with 3 posts and 3 bases, and curtains 15 cubits long are to be on the other side with 3 posts and 3 bases. For the entrance of the courtyard, provide a curtain 20 cubits long of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and finely twisted linen, the work of an embroiderer, with 4 posts and 4 bases. All the posts around the courtyard are to have silver bands and hooks and bronze bases. The courtyard shall be 100 cubits long and 50 cubits wide, with curtains of finely twisted linen 5 cubits high, and with bronze bases. All the other articles used in the service of the tabernacle, whatever their function, including all the tent pegs for it and those for the courtyard, are to be of bronze.
Okay. So you notice that they're using a lot of metals here. They're not using wood tent posts, tent stakes, any of that kind of stuff. A lot of metal, be a little bit heavy, right? A little bit heavy. Now, would they have pounded, the stuff as it was, as they used the wood and then they covered it with the bronze or with the gold, they would have had those pounded down to some very, very fine sheets of gold. So while it would have added weight, it isn't like, we put gold on it that's a 1/4 inch thick or something. It wasn't that kind of thing. They were hammered to be very, very thin, that type of thing. But now think about this. This would be the temple proper, or the tabernacle proper, where the tabernacle sat. And it's 100 cubits long. Now, a cubit is about 18 inches. So that means it would be about 1,800 inches long. Anybody can do math in your head? How many feet would that be? 1,800 cubic, 150 feet? Something like that?
Yes,
150, okay. Yeah. 150 feet long. And so it's 150 feet long, and it's half of that wide, so 75 feet wide. So now imagine that space. That's the space of our farm. Okay? That's about what our farm is a little longer than that. But you can imagine the temple proper being about that size space. Okay? And so what they have is they have all the posts that are gonna go up, and then they got curtains that surround that space, because it's still a worship space, right? It's not just an open field. So it's a worship space, and yes, Emily, they do have a curtain across the front of that but it's a curtain that it's a curtain that you could slide so you could come in to worship. So it would not be. Remember, the curtains is not one piece. The only woven one-piece curtain would have been the one that was for the Holy of Holies. Everything else was 10-cubit wide curtains. So they were, still pretty big curtains, but again, they were on rings and hang. They would be like your, kind of like your shower curtains. So they could be slid in different directions, that type of thing. So that's how they moved them, is they were on those rings, so you could slide these curtains. Like I said, very similar to how you would have a shower curtain, but they would have been made of the blue and they would have been made of those blue and purple fabrics. Okay.
It's also interesting to note that as farther away you get from the Holy of Holies, the less expensive metals are used.
Yes, I'm glad you. I'm glad you picked up on that. I'm glad you picked up on it because I was gonna address that later. But that's right. Note that the only space that used gold is the space where, that would surround where God is. So the curtain that separated the most holy place from the holy place, as well as the furnishings where God would be found, were gold. From there, you move to the tabernacle was silver, and then everything else was bronze. No, you're absolutely right. There's great significance to that. But also there was one more thing that was kind of separated from maybe from where the Ark of the Covenant was, and that was the lampstand. The lampstand, if you remember, was all gold. Why? And the lampstand, like I said before, the lampstand would always be lit, and it was all gold. What is that significant of?
The omnipresence of God.
Okay. It was more specific than that. There was a center candle in there, or a center lamp, and then there were the other lamps that spread from that. And the lamps were always lit, and they were of gold. Christ. It's the Christ. It is the Christ who is the light of the world. right? The Christ by whose the world cannot withstand the light. You can't hide the light of Christ. Remember, in the new heaven and the new earth, there's going to be no more need for a sun or a moon. There's going to be no need for light bulbs. There's going to be no need for anything to light. There's going to be no need for candles, any of those kind of things to provide light, because the Christ will provide all the light for the new heaven and the new earth. Well, this lampstand is imagery of the Christ, who is the light of the world.
But he hadn't arrived yet, so that would remind them that he was still coming.
It's the imagery of the Christ. Yes, it is imagery of the Christ. Absolutely. Okay. So now 20 to the end of the chapter. Okay. We did a chapter and a half today. How do you like that? Wow, you don't seem impressed. Like, wow, yeah, so.
Command the Israelites, my book just closed.
Verse 20. Oh, your book closed on you.
My book snapped shut.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and now, where are we? Here I am.
27, verse 20.
Command the Israelites to bring you clear oil of pressed olives for the light, so that the lamps may be kept burning in the tent of meeting. That's that where it says focus of worship. Is that it?
The tent of meeting is the inside of the tabernacle.
Okay. Outside the curtain that is in front of the testimony, Aaron and his sons are to keep the lamps burning before the Lord from evening till morning. This is to be a lasting ordinance among the Israelites for the generations to come.
Okay. So here the note that they are to keep the lamps burning, but God doesn't provide for, well, God does provide for them the oil for the lamp, because it is God's creation that creates the olive for the olive oil. But note that it is the responsibility of the people to provide the oil, the pure oil for the lamp. So not the cheap stuff that they would use, that they give away to their family for Christmas presents, but the good stuff. And this will be the pure oil, and that is what will be used to keep the lamps burning. And that lamp was to be burning from evening till morning, so that light was always seen. Okay? And so that would be, that was something that was very important, and that would be the responsibility, again, of the priest or the high priest or whomever they had as their apprentice to keep that lamp burning. Now, in our churches today, we still have a ever-burning lamp, though, in our days of technology, we've changed it to where our burning lamp really isn't a burning lamp, is it? It is supposed to be. It is a burning lamp, but it is an electric light bulb that's lit up there. You'll see it. Ours is above the baptismal font. I think they used to have two of them, because there's another one that's buried in a closet. But that's supposed to represent a lamp, but it is not a lamp. It's just not a lamp. Though it is what, they are what they are. Fascinating, at my first parish, to this day, they still have a lamp. And that lamp burns, and it burns for 7 days. And if you don't change it inside that 7 days, it goes out. And so you have to climb up on a ladder. Got to get up on a tall ladder, and there's a glass globe that you have to take the glass globe off. And my guess is that globe probably has been broken more than once. I would think it never got broke when I was there, but it did. I'm sure it got broke. And on the inside was a candle. And so you would have that candle. You take the candle out, and then you would take the light from the candle. You'd light the next candle, and you put the next candle in. And so this would be something that you'd have to do every week. I did it much of the time, but I also had an individual from our church who would do it when I, at other times. And so we still had a true candle. But most churches now use their candle is a electric lamp. And you just have a electric bulb or, a light bulb for it, which is what Berea has here.
Aren't there some with oil?
I've never seen one. For the ever burning lamp? No. I've never seen it with the ever burning lamp. We have our other candles are oil candles. So our Christ candle is oil candle. Our altar candles are oil candles. They used to be beeswax. They're now oil. These are oil candles. But the actual ever-burning lamp is it's an electric light bulb. The red one. Yeah, that's the one that you see, the red one that's up above the baptismal font. So
But that almost seems sacrilege.
it's every church. Every church.
Well, why have it then?
It's symbolism, again. It's done as a symbol. It's still a light. It's still a lamp. You would call, when you have a light in your living room, it has a bulb in it. You call that light a lamp, right? It's still a lamp. It's just using electricity and a bulb to light it. And that's just what the churches have done now. And most churches are the electric.
It's never turned off
It's on all time. You go on there right now, it's on.
until the bulb bursts.
Yeah. So you just have to, you change the bulb occasionally so that it doesn't burn out. Yeah. But, has it burned out? I'm guessing somewhere along the line. Let's put it this way, it hasn't burned out in the 11.5 years I've been here. Yeah, it hasn't burned out. So, but anyways, that gets us through 27. Next week, we're going to take a look at now how the priests are going to be garbed. And obviously the symbolism in there. So, go in peace, serve the Lord. We'll see you next week. Just to let you know that there's going to be the end of August and the beginning of September, there are going to be 3 Sundays I will not be here. Those 3 Sundays we will not have Bible class, just so you're aware, okay? So,